Want to know how to memorize a paragraph fast? And tired of the standard advice about using linking and rote repetition? I hope you're tired because it's bad advice. Linking and chunking is often more overwhelming than repeating sentences over and over again. If you want to stop being overwhelmed, you're in luck. I've memorized many paragraphs, and in this video, I will show you how to do it. You'll learn the technique progressively and exactly how old memory masters used to memorize entire books. Back then they had to carry entire books in their heads. Books were rare and expensive, and they were heavy. They couldn't even carry them on their backs if they wanted to. And that's why they needed to learn the techniques you're about to learn. And those techniques still work today. So if you're new here, this is Dr. Anthony Metivier from magneticmerrymethod.com. I'm inviting you to get subscribed now so you don't miss a thing. Hit that thumbs up to help train the robots that we humans still care about our memory. Let's dive in. Before you can memorize an entire sentence, you need to be able to memorize words. The ancient memory master who wrote Rhetorica ad Herennium, circa 90 BCE, made this point very clear. To paraphrase, the unknown author says, "Those who wish to memorize more difficult things must first learn to memorize words." Learning how to memorize vocabulary is very good advice. It is the path to being able to memorize more than one word at a time. So how do you do it? Well, you develop skills with association. You need to be able to look at the letters that form a word and connect them to other words. To do this quickly, you want to develop your skills by learning the peg word method. So let's say the sentence you want to memorize is from Plato's Apology. Someone will say, "Yes, Socrates, but cannot you hold your tongue, and then you may go into a foreign city and no one will interfere with you." Later, you'll be able to compress "someone will say" into a single image, but for now, just focus on someone. If you have your tools ready, maybe a famous actress like Suzanne Summers has already come to mind. Maybe she has a sum of gold in her hand. She may even be under the summer sun. And by making alphabetical sound associations between like-sounding words that evoke dynamic images, it's easy to make associations. I highly recommend you develop parts of your peg word system based on celebrities so that these associations can be richly evocative. I sometimes refer to this as a celebrity list. And you can build these lists from other than celebrities, politicians, friends, family, teachers, musicians, artists, authors, etc. The point is, it's easier to imagine a familiar association doing something that triggers back the target words when you're memorizing entire sentences after having mastered words. So for example, to add "will say," you can have Suzanne Summers with a character from the movie Good Will Hunting, or Will Smith, the actor. And they could be saying something, or even to someone more specific, like Tom Sayers. And from there, move on to the next word. And as you go, I highly suggest you place these associations at the alphabetical sound level in a memory palace. That way they're not floating in the void of your mind. It will also help with recalling the sentences word for word later. Now, let's talk about the paragraph. First, you want to count how many sentences you're dealing with. Read it aloud and get a sense of its general tone. Notice any words that leap out at you or that you don't understand. If you need to look something up, now is the time so that you're not slowed down later. This point is important. If you truly want the best way to memorize a paragraph, you need to remove all obstacles first. And so this means that you'll want to have at least one celebrity list. If not, then you're facing a major obstacle. Your setup is not ready. And once you know how many sentences are in the paragraph and you have your tools, you want to create or identify a memory palace. And you want to, if you're going to be a true memory master, have multiple memory palaces ready to go. And the best part is I teach you how to do that at magneticmerrymethod.com/YT. A memory palace network is invaluable for people who want to memorize paragraphs. So go and get that course now. You want your memory palace design to have some structure based on the paragraph. For example, I prefer to mentally paint my sentences in rooms from top to bottom. In the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass, we call this the pillar technique. With this unique approach, I've been able to memorize up to 17 words on a single pillar. Now, usually you can get 4 to 8 sentences in a single room when you're using the walls and the corners with 8 pillars per room. In the beginning, you might only be able to memorize around 1 to 3 words per station. But don't stress that. We all start somewhere. So let's say that you've mastered memorizing words, you've mastered memorizing sentences, and now you've mastered paragraphs. What about how to memorize very long passages? Well, that's exactly what I faced when I had to memorize and then deliver a speech at a TEDx event. The talk was 1,506 words divided over 60 paragraphs. They were short paragraphs, but there were 60 of them nonetheless. Now luckily, I had no problem memorizing it quickly, and you can watch the TEDx if you want to see the results. Now, there are different memory palace examples you can explore, and in this case I used an entire neighborhood. It started in a building, but then moved out over several streets. All you have to do is start preparing memory palaces like these in advance. With a general estimation, you should be able to accommodate any passage of any size in most neighborhoods. And if you need more space, just add more buildings and more neighborhoods. One of the benefits of using neighborhoods is that you can then walk through the passage you've memorized. Walking was one of the tips my speaking mentor Thomas Krafft suggested for instilling how I memorized this long passage of text. I almost ignored the suggestion, but I'm glad I gave it a try. It's not only good exercise, but does seem to deepen the associations and speed up the process. Now, I'm currently memorizing a part of the Bhagavad Gita, and I have found that this requires a lot of space. So it starts in an art gallery, and then it goes out into the city, and then I add another neighborhood and another neighborhood and another neighborhood. So it just gets bigger and bigger as I go deeper and deeper into the text, and that's okay. The best thing though is if you can, figure out as much of the journey in advance as you can, because long passages, you won't be stopped. You won't have obstacles if you have the next place ready to go. So think about your memory palace design, and there are some memory palace design suggestions that I have for you in the free course at magneticmerrymethod.com. So we've talked about making associations, and we've talked about memory palaces. Memory scientists call this elaborative encoding and using spatial memory. And we want to make sure that what we memorize sticks. And for this, we use active recall. Now, in brief, active recall means making the brain work a little to recall the associations and the target paragraphs. And more specifically, active recall requires that your encoding must be highly personal and have a lot of variety. Now, you already have a lot of variety because you're memorizing paragraphs. But in terms of making everything personal, make sure that you really understand how to make those associations. And so my example of Suzanne Summers may mean nothing to you, but it's very personal to me because I spent hours watching her in not just one famous TV show that you might know called Three's Company, but also in many, many other places that she's appeared over the years. And you just might, Susan Summers, who knows? But if you actually complete these exercises and you fill out the blanks and find somebody, you're gonna have enough associations. You're going to. It's really difficult not to. The only thing that you have to do is figure out the associations and start. Just start. Because if you don't, you never build the repository of what I call mental Lego. Now, in order to recall these highly personalized images, simply call the memory palace back to mind, then the association, then the information. With training, you'll find that the paragraph eventually comes back to your memory faster than either the memory palace or the associations. But it's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes it will be different. And there are a few more ins and outs when it comes to using active recall for paragraph memorization, and I suggest you check out my video called Repetition Rules for more of those nuances. Let's say you not only want to memorize a paragraph, you also want to know exactly which sentence is fifth into the paragraph. Or perhaps you need to know the Becker numbers of a philosophical text. Or maybe you're memorizing scripture and want to know chapter and verse. In this case, you'll want to employ an additional mnemonic device called the major system. You use this to create a full 00 to 99 PAO, and this means that you have an image for each number from 00 to 99. That way you can number every station in a memory palace in advance. Each station will have a pre-assigned association that you can trigger any time. Now, although ambitious, this advanced approach to memorizing paragraphs is tremendously useful. For example, it can help you compare two passages in two different books. And you really can do this, and you really can conquer paragraphs. So long as you're willing to set yourself up with the needed memory techniques, memorizing any paragraph will be a breeze. Make sure that you go one step further, however. Effective learning is not just about regurgitating entire sentences, paragraphs, or entire passages. You also need to be able to understand the key points. And to do that, I suggest you write your own summaries of the material in your own handwriting. You can also mind map key ideas, have discussions with others about the facts and the concepts, follow up with more reading from multiple sources, seek out video and audio so you can see and hear, and have more supplements that help you experience the content in different media. And if you're memorizing paragraphs for an exam, taking practice tests is highly recommended as well. The more you include variety, the more opportunities for different levels of active recall you'll get, and that means more memory benefits. So, what do you say? Are you ready to get out there and start memorizing some paragraphs? Thanks as ever for the view. Thanks to our channel members for your support. Thanks to everyone who has the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass. Everyone on Team Magnetic appreciates it very, very much. If you have any questions, please just pop them below. Get back to you ASAP. And until we have a chance to speak again, thank you again, and keep yourself magnetic.